right, and now we are joined by defending Sprint Cup Series champion and current points leader Kevin Harvick, driver of the number 4 Budweiser Jimmy John's Chevrolet. Kevin, you're off to another great start so far this season, 2 wins, 8 top 5 finishes so far, including a strong run in last weekend's Sprint All-Star race. Just talk a little bit about the importance of starting off the season so strong and how you plan to carry that momentum into 600 laps here at Charlotte.
Yeah, we've obviously had a great start to the year, and last week, was just another great week. So just like I talk all the time, just really lucky to be a part of a team that's got a leader like Rodney Childers and an organization that's really committed to doing what we have to do to be competitive and win races. So the best part about this team is they just keep their head down, grinding away on new things and constantly working on pushing forward. And I heard somebody ask Jimmy about a question about the windshield over here, but there's some pretty remarkable video of some things that some projectile testing that NASCAR did and actually changed the front window leading into last year with some different layers and different things that were mandatory with all the cars. So that's without that windshield that NASCAR put into place, that would have been a much uglier piece of video, and I wish that you guys could see some of those projectile tests that they did with different objects with the new windshields.
All right, we're going to open it up to questions for Kevin now. Again, please state your name and affiliation. We'll start right here in the front row.
George Winkler with NASCAR.com. Just wanted to know how your Hall of Fame voting experience went, and if you would reveal who you voted for.
It was an honor first, and I think the thing that I really learned the most about going through the whole process was really there isn't a bad vote. Everybody who's nominated on that list, pretty much year in and year out, is deserving of a spot in the Hall of Fame. So my list of inductees, there was 4 out of the 5 on there, and so it's listening to everything, I felt like they were going to be some pretty obvious choices, and I think the part that I'm looking forward to the most is hearing Bruton Smith's acceptance speech. So that's going to be the most entertaining part. There's some great inductees during this class, but I think his speech will be awesome.
Hey Kevin, Joe Person here with the Charlotte Observer. Wondering, since Kyle's wreck at Daytona, what your satisfaction level is at various tracks, including this one, with the increases in safer barriers.
Well, I think the hard part about the safety aspects of safer barriers and different things like that. It's hard to get the barriers built and in place in a short amount of time. I think in the second half of the year, you're going to see a lot more safer barriers and different things happen. I think the analysis of the different walls that have odd shapes and angles to them with the tire barriers and listening to the explanations of what NASCAR has done to temporarily make those places better is encouraging. But I think it's an ongoing process. I know the Hendrick folks are working on some different things with the seats. NASCAR's implemented some new updates to the floorboards. With the cars, as you wreck them, you have to update the floorboards. So there have been some really positive things that come from a really unfortunate incident. So there's definitely been some changes from the safety front as we've moved from that wreck, and I know that there's a really big plan in place, and it's just you just can't go out and just put walls up. And I think that the planning and the organization and everything that has gone through it has been a full court press since that day.
Woody Kane with MRN. Kevin, nobody gets to where you are without some help along the way, and I was wondering if there was early in your career one person who really sparked you and helped you get moving in the road that you're on now, and what kinds of things they did to help you along the way.
Well, I think that could be, I don't know that you can't narrow it down to one person, just for the fact that for me there was I had a whole town behind me. Growing up in Bakersfield, California, there was a large group of people that were very supportive and and I was lucky to be a part of a racing community like Bakersfield. So I would point the starting of that process and kind of till the day that I left when I was 19 or 20 was a huge part of kind of getting the ball rolling in the right direction from, whether it be support or financial support. But even to this day, I mean, when you look at the things that we do in the community there, or we do in the community here or anywhere else across the country, it's the whole town is really supportive of everything that I do.
Viv Bernstein, New York Times. I don't know if other drivers look at Jeff Gordon as sort of a voice that NASCAR listens to, but if you look at him that way, how much of an absence is there going to be to that voice? Is somebody going to have to step up among drivers to be a voice for you guys?
I think there's so much that you guys don't see or hear about of things that happen with the communication between the drivers and NASCAR. There's definitely a group of constant communication between different drivers and different NASCAR people to definitely help try to push things in a direction, or bounce things off of each other to try to help better the sport. So Jeff's obviously, in my opinion, still going to be around and still going to have. The good thing about it is he's going to have a different perspective on it when he's on the outside looking in, because he's already got that voice. I think there's from a competition standpoint, from a driver's standpoint, I believe that there's definitely several of us that have voices that can fill that role and are definitely active in voicing our opinions but there's a lot that you can that you guys just don't see and hear about, and it's just like the windshield. Those are things that we receive on a yearly basis of updates and different things that happen as it's a constant progression. It's just like the competition in the garage. I mean, there's a constant progression of whether it's safety or competition, and we talk about those things a lot amongst the two groups.
Okay, we'll come back up here to the left with Mike and Dustin.
Mike Hembry, USA Today. All evidence indicates you did everything you could to win last week, came up through the field, and you ran into the first place, second place aero issue that's been around for a long time at these tracks. What does that mean?
Now, wait a second. Let's clarify the aero push. Does anybody watch Formula One? It's been there for years. It's in Indy cars. It's in racing. If you run behind one of your colleagues here in this room, you're going to have an aero push.
This is true. But is there a short-term or a long-term fix to it, or is this
It's never gonna get
is this
fixed.
a work in progress that may
Yeah.
have an answer somewhere down the road?
Yeah, it's always going to exist in racing. It's never going to not exist. Your car is never going to run as fast behind another car as it does by itself. It's just impossible. It's just absolutely impossible. And I think these cars, over the last 20 years have become more sensitive in aero push. I just think in the 70s and 80s it was probably there. They just didn't know. And we almost know too much about everything that's going on now. So I could make my car run fast behind other cars last week, but it's just a totally different way of driving the car when you're behind somebody than it is when you're driving by yourself. And Denny he made a good move, and he knew that he kind of caught me off guard. I felt like I had options to run all the way up against the wall, or I could run the bottom. I could maneuver my car. It's just he kind of caught me off guard at the right time, and I was committed to the middle. And when you're carrying too much speed on entry and overusing the throttle like you do in a 10-lap sprint, you're right on the edge of really losing the front end if somebody's in front of you. And you just, when you're behind the car, you can't overdrive it. But it's just it's something that's always going to exist. It's impossible to fix.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. In light of the James Hinchcliffe accident this past week in Indianapolis, where the safety crew was credited with saving his life, obviously what is done over there is different than here. from your perspective, and as somebody who's involved in maybe more of these conversations, maybe knows more about this stuff than us, are you comfortable with how it is, or are there other things that can be learned? Because I think a lot of people, or some people may look at it and say, why isn't there the dedicated safety team over here? Look at what it did over there.
Yeah.
How do you view it, and is it something that may happen down the road, or?
Well, I think that's actually a conversation that we, a group of us have had actually on week 2, and learning more about the process and how long some of these doctors and the background of some of the doctors that have actually been at some of these racetracks for a really long time and know the system and how it's talked about and upgraded and done differently on a yearly basis was really something that I didn't know about. But it's definitely something that we've talked about and had these conversations with NASCAR, and once they explained the process and how the doctors and things were chosen was definitely kind of eye-opening as to how much money and time were spent to make sure that they had the right people at every racetrack, and really the longevity of the staff and some of the people that have been a part of our community for a long time. So some of it is just not knowing about it, and I don't think anybody's saying that it can't always be better, but I feel pretty confident in what the process is and the medical staffs that we have at the tracks. Week 2 of the season. Yeah.
Great. We'll stay up here on the left with Tom.
Kevin, Tom Jensen, FoxSports.com. Last 7.5-mile points races, I believe, have all been won by you or Jimmy Johnson. Is there any reason to expect that won't happen again this weekend?
Well, I hope not. I hope that we're on the winning side of it. I think as you as you look at our strengths as our team, the number 4 team, and you look at the way we ran last week and the way Kurt ran last week, I think from a Stuart Haas standpoint, we feel really good about coming into the week and where we are with things, and feel like hopefully we've made ourselves better than we were last week. So you never know. Obviously, I think as you look at the results, the 1.5-mile tracks have been really good for us. This track in general for the 4 team has been good since really all last year. I think we finished second in all 3 races, so added a 4th to that this year. So I think when we come to Charlotte, we want to run well. This is an important race as far as ones that you circle on the calendar, and the Coke 600 is definitely one of those that you want to win, and I know Rodney and the team guys want to win. So we expect to go out and be competitive. You just never know what's going to happen, but we expect to be competitive and hopefully run up front.
All right, great. We'll go back to the right with TV, come up to Stan, and then finish up over here.
Kelly Bardick, WCCB. Kevin, how important is it for your pit crew to be on point, especially for this race?
Well, it's a long race, and obviously you have a lot of different, the length of the race and the amount of pit stops that they do is a little more than what they're used to. But I think for my group of guys, they're a very experienced group of individuals that have been through these races before. They've been through championship races and pressure moments, and they're just going to go out and do their thing. They're good at blocking that out. But every week, if you're going to have a chance to win, you're going to have it all put together, because if you don't, somebody else will, and that's just the nature of the competitive world that we live in.
Stan Creekmore with RPMTonight.com, right down the middle. Will you be running the same car this week that you ran last week? And to follow that up, did you learn anything last week that you think will be very beneficial to the Coca-Cola 600?
Well, we have new rules, and we have different tires this time, so just kind of zeroing in on hopefully what is the starting place for this week was, last week is obviously there's a trophy and a lot of money on the line, and winning the All-Star race is gratifying, I guess you could say, but in the end it's definitely a good verification test session, I guess you could say, for this week and what you need to do and where you need to go, and you kind of know what some of the general characteristics are coming from the All-Star race to this race as to the direction of where the track's going to go. And so there's a lot of things that were different that were great to get out of the way last week, and you look forward to today just for the fact that you aren't going to do we're not going to do a bunch of race run stuff just for the fact that you raced 110 laps last week, and feel like you should have a good starting spot for race trim as we go into Saturday's practice.
All right, we'll come back up to the left with one more for Kevin.
Pete Yakabelli, Associated Press. Kevin, you talk about being part of a terrific race team where everybody's like-minded and wants to succeed, but not everybody wins multiple races the first 3 months of the season in 4 of the last 5 seasons as you have. Is there a special mindset coming into the year? Are you fired up because of what happened the previous year? Do you want to just start and make sure that you've gotten your business taken care of as far as the chase goes early on, that you don't have to worry about it later?
Well, it's definitely better to win early in this format. I think the earlier you can win, the better you can have a plan. The more you can try, the more things you can venture out and do throughout the first 26 races. And I think the biggest thing is you can be pretty thorough about it. You don't have a lot of pressure on your race team as far as what you need to do or how you need to do things, or it's really about finding more speed. It's about winning races and trying to do those things in the first 26 weeks. And the third thing is develop a plan as to what your cars and what you want to race in those cars on week 27 as you go into the last 10 weeks. So it worked well for us last year, and I think I feel like my guy's pretty dangerous. The more time you give him time to think in Rodney, the more time you give him to think and do that in a relaxed atmosphere is something that really lets him. He can shine in any moment, but it really lets him shine when he can really get creative and start thinking about things and wanting to find speed, because that makes him excited and challenged and all in the same sense, I guess you could say, because that's just the type of guy that he is. So for me as the driver of the car, it's fun because you know that he's gonna find something, and that's exciting.
All right, and we do have time for a couple more, so we'll go front right with Chris and then finish up on the left.
Chris Knight, CatchFence.com. Kevin, Uncompromising aired last week on Fox Sports 1. How important was it for you to go back to California and show everybody your racing roots?
Well, I think that show was important just for the fact that that's not something that I don't normally do. I go back there a couple times a year and see the same group of people and go to a lot of the same places. But I think it's important for people to learn more about people. We have fans say that they just don't know much about my background and where I came from and how it was, and so it was just important to go back there and really show them how much of a support cast I had in the town and as I grew up and how I grew up with some of the key people in the situation. So it's fun for me and to go back and see the go-kart track that is still intact and still virtually the same track that I raced on and go back to where Mesa Marin used to be and talk to the Collins family and see some of the different people that helped us throughout my racing career is pretty neat. And so it was fun to tell a little bit of that story.
All right, and our final question from Kevin will come from the left side.
Yeah, Kevin, Hill Overton, WIXC Radio. How much, given that you've won 2 races, you're already safely in the chase, how much will you and Rodney go out of the box this weekend to win the Coke 600? I mean, what kind of chances are you willing to take?
Well, I don't think that, there's not going to be a magic wand that you can wave to just magically make something appear. I mean, there's definitely 5 or 6 little things that you want to try, and it's going to take 5, 6, 10 little things to add up to find something that's measurable, to know that it's better. And I think as a group, you want to go out and win the race, but obviously things are going well, and you can try a lot of those things, but you still have to verify them. And obviously, if it's a fuel mileage race and you have to save gas and strategy and things like that, I think that those are no-brainers. So there's no reason to get way too far out of the box on the cars, because first off, you can't, and second, it's hard to find things that add up to something that you can actually measure and verify in a difference. So I think as we go through the weekend, it's a lot of little things, and there's definitely an open window for strategy plays and different things like that to win the race. But that's definitely the goal, is to win the race.
All right, Kevin, we really appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Best of luck throughout the weekend.